Okay, if y'all would state your name and your graduation year and talk to us a little bit about your favorite subject in high school or maybe your favorite class in high school and some extracurricular activities you're involved in here at Mooreville High School.
My name is Kristie Willie Webb, and I graduated in 1983. And my favorite subject, of course, is science because I have taught high school science for over 29 years here at Mooreville. And I participated in all sporting events when I was in school, which was basketball and track. We didn't have softball, volleyball, or any of those sporting events.
And you held like the longest record for a long jump or something.
I have held the record still in high jump and track. I went to state every year.
And what was that height?
5'10".
Oh, that's pretty
for
good.
girls, and
her back is still recovering.
And I probably scored the most points in basketball as well. As
Wow,
far as
Mom,
average.
You're so humble.
Oh, she asked. I was just telling you.
Okay, I assume you are the daughter?
Yes, Savannah Webb was my maiden name, Tucker now. I graduated in 2013. My favorite subject was also science and biology. My mother here was my favorite teacher, not just because she was my mom, but I loved the class and she was a great teacher. And I played high school basketball and tennis at the time.
Okay, I didn't know you played tennis.
Yes, me and Coach Robert's wife, Casey Bird, went to state in tennis.
Okay, that's cool. Talk to us just a second about a typical day, and let's compare the difference. And what year did you say you graduated?
1983.
1983. So talk to us about a typical school day in 1983, like your daily routine, kind of what it would look like.
Well, we had 6 periods in a day. Most of our classes were probably around 50 minutes. Our PE class was in the middle of the day, not at the end like it is now. So therefore, when we got finished with that, we all looked pretty rough because we'd been practicing. Then we'd have break after the second period class, usually lasts about 25 minutes. On Fridays, if we had a home football game, and we'd always have a pep rally. Everybody participated in the pep rallies when I was in school. Always had competitions between each class. The teachers of those classes would get in there with the students. We had a really good time.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Tucker, how does that differ from what you can remember your days in the tens?
Yeah, I'm trying to even think of. I think we had 4 classes similar to now, and our sports were last block, and because of basketball being a boy and girl sport, we would have practice during school some days and then after school some days. We had a break. Our break was outside for my 9th and 10th grade year between the middle school and high school building, and then my senior year, our break was in our cafeteria, and it was all 9th through 12th grade at the time. And so most of the time during break, I actually went to my mom's lab and ate a cosmic brownie and a pack of extra cheddar goldfish and just went back to class. But that was just the perks of being a teacher's kid.
I understand that. So students now have a whole lot easier ways to communicate than when me and your mom were coming up. So Tucker, talk to us a little bit about how you communicated with students at school. Was it mostly through phone, cell phone, letters, other methods? How did you communicate with your friends outside of school?
So we had cell phones in about the 7th and 8th grade is when everybody our age was getting a phone, and it was a flip phone. Most people had Razors or Blackberries, and you had to, hit it 3 or 4 times to get it to the letter that you wanted. If you wanted a ringtone, you had to record it on the radio and set it on your phone for certain people. We did not have Snapchat. At the time, we didn't even have Instagram. I think that was maybe my senior year, getting close to college. So primarily just text messaging or phone calls. But we were not allowed to have our phones at school. If you brought your phone to school, you could not have it out in class at all. And it was a very serious rule at the time. So now you'll see kids on their phone in the hallway, in the bathroom. That wasn't a thing. You really kind of came to school and you weren't on your phone until you left. And if something was an emergency or you needed something, you had to go to the office to call. Again, luckily because my mom was here, I could go to her room. But my friends, when they got sick or anything, the nurse called their parents picked them up. There was no calling in the bathroom like, hey, I'm sick, come get me. Just text message and phone calls.
Were those calls and texts limited monthly, or were they unlimited? Did you come up at a time where you had to pay per text, or no?
I guess that's like maybe the phone plan that we had. We did not have internet, so internet was around whenever I was being raised, but my dad was always real frugal and also just said like the internet is making us dumber, which he has been right on the money with a lot of that. And so to protect my brother and I, we didn't have internet at home, so we did have a certain amount of minutes and texts, but it was a part of a package deal. We never really ran out of it. So FaceTime wasn't a thing then. You couldn't like call and video chat your friends. You called over the phone if you liked somebody and talked to them at nighttime, and got caught, in your closet if you were talking too late and had to turn your phone in at 9:30, 10 o'clock to your mom and dad. And so there was no crazy business happening on the technology, which I'm super proud of because it protected us in a lot of ways.
All right. So how does that differ from how you would talk with your friends outside of school?
Well, we definitely did not have cell phones. So we called on a rotary phone most of the time, and then it changed to push button. But we would talk at school, make plans during school about what we were going to do on the weekend or in the afternoon.
I can remember when Mom got her first cell phone. That was a Nokia brick, and you could play Snake on it, and that was like the biggest and baddest game of all.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't even have a cell phone. Dad was the last one in our family to get a cell phone, and then refused to become like a part of the iPhone team. He had just an old Samsung for the longest time. He might have gotten an iPhone 3 years ago.
It may have been a little longer than that,
but
yeah,
she had that Nokia brick, and she would call, and it was a big ordeal. That I can remember when she got
I
that
had one of those.
being a big deal, being able to just like call people on that phone. Because we had a house phone growing up, 662-842-6590. I had to memorize that number forever in case of emergencies.
That's funny. Kids don't know numbers now.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kristie, what were some places that you and your friends like to hang out, or some activities y'all did after school? Like, how did you and your friends spend free time back in the 80s?
well,
Oh, yeah. How did you spend your free time?
of course, when school was going on, we were involved with the sports. We played ball or ran track, whatever we were doing. So we had that going on in the afternoons. Now, in the summertime, that was the only time softball was available for, our age at that time. And we played a lot of softball, did a lot of swimming, skiing, water skiing, inner tube riding, just pretty much cutting up and having fun.
Right. Savannah, where did you and your friends hang out?
At our houses, I was a pretty good kid, and so on the weekends when things would be going on, my mom and dad, in fact, would make fun of me and be like, do you not have any friends you can hang out with on the weekend? What are your friends doing? And I'd be like, well, don't think you'd want me to be there. We had a lot of bonfires. I did go to those. The skating rink was pretty popular. Skate Zone, I think is what it's called, in Tupelo, but my dad never let me go to that. I kind of wanted to have a wild hair at times, and he said no to that. So when we were with friends on the weekend, we just stayed at each other's houses and went out to eat at Chick-fil-A, which I think is still a thing to do, or we'd go to Dairy Cream on East Main Street and get like a dipped cone. But for the most part, we were at home.
So switching gears just a little bit, talk to me about the kind of music that you listened to during y'all's time in high school, what you listened to that music on, because I think it's going to probably differ a little bit, and also some popular artists or bands that you enjoyed listening to when y'all were in high school, maybe even some concerts y'all went to.
Well, I'll start with this. We mostly listened to old rock and roll. And, of course, we had to listen to it on the radio. Of course, during that time, I don't know if you know this or not, but MTV started in the 80s. And so that was a big deal for us because we could watch that. It was on 24/7. And we had cassettes, 8-track players, and, of course, vinyl records that we listened to. I would say maybe songs like, Van Halen, Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. In fact, I sing that fairly often now when all 7 of my grandchildren are there and their parents. because it sounds like a jungle in my house. So,
Probably.
but I listen to some country music, not as much though.
Did you ever get to go to any concerts
Uh,
when you
I-
were in school?
when I was in school, I don't really remember. I will say my brother did go to more concerts than I did, but I didn't. He got to see Michael Jackson because he could
Really?
moonwalk like you've never seen.
Right. Oh, I'm jealous of that. All right, Savannah, how did you listen to music, first of all, in school, and then talk to me about some of your favorite artists?
So we listened to music on the radio in our vehicles, and then MP3 players. We had MP3 players that were called an iPad Nano or iPod Nano, and you had a little short fat one or a long skinny one, and you just had a little menu button, play, pause, and you could go through it. Sometimes if they were fancy, they had a little screen and you could see the name of your song, but for the most part it was just like random. You were going to load your music and they could just flow at different times.
Tell us how you got the music on there.
So you had to download it from the computer. You had to hook up a USB. So there's probably wasn't legal, but downloading music to a desktop and then loading it to your MP3, or you could create CDs that way. I have still in my vehicle all my CDs that I burned whenever I was in school, or people burned for me, and that was kind of a thing to share music. That way you could listen to the songs you wanted to, and it just wasn't random on the radio, but you had to download them from a computer.
What about concerts? Were you able to attend any concerts?
Oh yeah, I have been to some really fun concerts. I've seen the Cheetah Girls. I was a big fan of the Cheetah Girls. Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana. Got to see them. The Jonas Brothers. I got to see the Jonas Brothers. What are y'all saying? And then Martina McBride and Carrie Underwood in my country girl era. And then Willie Nelson. I grew up listening to a lot of rock and roll, riding the truck with my dad, so I've always loved rock and roll music. I've always loved country music until I met my husband, who hates country music, so I don't listen to it as much. But I used to be like a big Rascal Flatts fan. Now I like, some Maroon 5 and John Bellion, thanks to him. Bon Iver, chill music. But I've been to more concerts than that. I'm trying to think.
Reba.
Yeah. I've been to several concerts. I used to really, really like concerts. I think the last one I went to was Kane Brown when he came to Tupelo. But before that, I loved, when I was in middle school, I feel like now middle schoolers act a lot more grown than we did, probably because of phones and just like the comparison and having to be grown. But like, we truly were kids, and like the shows that we watched, like the Cheetah Girls, you kind of made it look like, I don't even know what that is, but that was a popular thing on Disney. The bloopers are so great. And Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus was huge on Disney Channel, and so that was before she became like super famous, Miley Cyrus, and did all the things that she's done since that time. But yeah, my mom was at most of those too, so she has been to concerts. I introduced fun to my mom, so thanks to me, she's had a life.
I will say that I knew Kristie before you were born, and I
dang.
disagree with that.
Y'all both are old.
Talk to us about any school events like dances, sporting events, pep rallies that kind of stood out that when you think back on your time at Mooreville High School. Like any traditions, any activities or hobbies that you and all your friends participated in, any special...
I was really boring, actually. I mean, the only dance that stands out to me, yeah, some things never change, is whenever I was in the 9th grade, I had got invited to the junior-senior prom, and it was a big deal for my dad to let me go. And I went, and at the time, Betsy Kingsley, now Betsy Young, a girl named Lynn Dunham at the time, she's married too, and somebody else, I can't remember, maybe Aubrey C. We all got airbrush t-shirts to wear, and so we wore our dresses, and then we thought it was really cute, and we went in the bathroom and all hid and changed into our airbrush t-shirts and our neon tights, because airbrush t-shirts were popular then that you could get at the beach, but we had them made locally, and we went and got on the stage and danced at the prom. And that was really out of character for all 4 of us. But that's the only thing I can think about that like stands out. As far as pep rallies go, pep rallies were kind of ebb and flow in my 4 years of school, where some of them were really fun and then some of them were a complete flop. You could tell the cheerleaders really tried to put forth an effort, but the student section would be dead at times. But there were times that pep rallies were really, really fun, and they had games that the different grades played against one another, and teachers were really involved.
So, Kristie, you said that y'all had a lot of pep rallies. Did y'all have any dances too?
We did have dances at the prom and things like that. When I was a senior, we had our pep rally was in the gym. Of course, it's not the one that's there now, but the old one.
I remember that.
And several of us, about 8 of us, we did a skit. We did.
Do you still remember it?
I do.
And you're going to perform that today?
I am. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. So we had a lead singer who was singing, and the rest of us were backup singers, and we were dancing. That kind of stands out just because it was pretty funny at the time.
That is funny. I can imagine that. I do remember that song, and I was in about the 5th grade, and we sang that every day at break.
There you go.
Anyway,
I would like to see you perform it. You didn't really perform it.
Well,
I'm
I probably
kidding.
don't.
that's a later video.
Something that y'all still do is the homecoming dance, but a big difference when we were in school is homecoming dance was right after the football game. No fancy dresses, no fancy tuxes. Like the football boys left the football game in their shorts and t-shirts, sweaty mess, and all of us just had on whatever we had on for the game. And now that's like another big deal. Like you've got to get their corsage and ask to get a homecoming and have your homecoming proposal and your promposal. And I just love the simplicity of how there was no pressure and you just showed up and had a good time.
And it was here at the middle school gym?
It was in the middle school gym right after the football game.
Okay.
Our proms were at different places that our parents, depending on the class, had rented. And they were still pretty similar. I think long dresses were popular maybe my 9th and 10th grade year, and then 11th and 12th grade year everybody went to short dresses, and so the fad of long versus short and the tails on your dresses and all that.
Right, we see that kind of ebb and flow too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so switching gears to talk about more technology and how you use that in school. So you taught here, y'all both went here, I teach here. So talk to me about how the schoolwork and studying differs from today, from when you were in school. Like what technology did you use for assignments? Did you use books and notes or computers? Talk to me about that.
I had to go to the library, check out books, use the World Book Encyclopedia. At the time I was in school, we did not have that nice computer that we could just click on and get all the information. So most of the things that I had to research, I had to physically go somewhere, gather information, and put it together.
So real research, not Google.
I had to do real research. I will have to say that, in my opinion, the students now, they have it much easier because everything is just at their fingertip. They have all the information, whether it's good or bad, and it's just right there in front of them. So, I did not have to deal with some of the things that they have to deal with on that, but
Right.
we would physically have to go to a library.
Right. When we did our term paper senior year, it had to be 10 pages, and we went into the library and researched in books like that. So I remember that. I'm assuming they had the internet here at the school when you graduated.
Yeah, but nobody used computers even then, really. The teachers used it for class roll, and that was it.
Okay.
They had projectors that they wrote on with just dry erase that projected on to the
like an
screen.
overhead projector.
Mm-hmm. And Promethean boards were becoming a thing maybe towards the end of my high school career. I remember Miss Tally got one, and it was real fancy because she had like a camera that she could like do her work under the camera, and it would be on the screen. But like Miss Jones, Miss Knight now, she had like an actual projector that she wrote it all on, and all of our homework our teachers had written out and just made copies of our problems that we had to do. It was no typed out work that they had printed, and if it was a class that had a textbook, all of our homework was from that textbook that we had to read. There was not any really internet research until I got to college.
Okay. What kind of clothes were fashionable, or what was kind of popular during when you think back, like that was like the in thing?
So, I was never fashionable either. Again, some things never change. But Nike shorts, I did think about this when you sent this. Nike shorts had just come out, and for the longest time, everybody wore Umbro shorts, which were like the gymnast shorts. Everybody thought they were like gymnastic shorts, and they were all colors, but they were always really, really short and tight. So I was never allowed to wear those. And then Nike shorts came out, and they were still really short, but they were a little wider. And I wasn't allowed to wear those either because they were too wide, according to my parents. And so, modest is hottest, always. Leggings and oversized T-shirts became a big thing. So you had to get like a 4X so that it would be to your knees and you could wear your leggings. And then we wore really tall socks with our tall Ugg boots so that you could see our cute sock underneath our Ugg boot. And then, like, North Face fleece jackets were a big deal. Collar polos were a big deal at one point in time. Hollister shirts. You would go to the beach, and if you got to go to Hollister that summer, that was a nice thing. I don't really remember anything other than that. I did not have a lot of those clothes because that was fashion, and my clothes all came from Kayla Parker as a hand-me-down. So anything she had, I wore a year later.
Kristie, talk to us about the 80s. What was popular when you were in school?
High-waisted pants, leg warmers.
I do remember the leg
warmers. I would say the little jackets with the little shoulder pads in them.
Like a blazer?
Like a little blazer. With
Everything had shoulder pads.
Everything, yeah. Neon was real popular as far as the color goes.
Big hair.
I was going to say, and big hair, yeah.
Did you have the big bangs that everybody wore in the 80s?
I did have, at one time, my hair's it's really thick as well. And so I had pretty big hair at the time. I didn't really have bangs as much.
Did you do the perm thing that everybody
I didn't have
in the 80s?
to do the perm because I have my hair is got some texture.
I have a
to
photo right here. No, I'm kidding.
So if you're thinking back to your time, it might be easier for you, Kristie, things that some students here today might find funny or surprising about your high school experience. Can you think of anything right offhand that they just might be like, I know they probably thought that way about their research and stuff.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, some things we've covered. I mean, we didn't have cell phones.
You could smoke in the bathrooms.
Yeah, that is something that they would find funny.
Students could smoke?
If you were 12 years old, all you had to do was bring a note. You could smoke. So
that was surprising to me. So I feel like that'd be surprising to kids now.
I'm proud that you said that. Every day when I would go to basketball, the smoking area was right outside the gym door. So it was like a line, and all of us girl basketball players were walking through, and everybody's over there smoking. And there was a huge gas tank out there, and they smoked around it.
Safe.
I mean, I'm like, you should have the smoking area by the gas tank. But yes, so smoking. 12 years old, just a note from your parents. You could smoke. You could buy cigarettes when you were at any age.
They were in vending machines. If you could
Well,
put
they
the money
were
in
in
vending
vending machines, but even if you went to a store at 10 years old and you wanted to buy them, you could.
Right.
So that was a big thing. The teachers smoked, so they could smoke. I had one teacher, he smoked in the room.
Right.
You know, and then, of course, a lot of them chew tobacco or dip, so they'd dip and smoke, and I never thought really anything about it because that's just what I was accustomed to.
Right. Now, I think that would be pretty shocking for
Yeah.
everybody. Were there any major historical events that happened while you were in high school that may have impacted you? Maybe anything specific to this area, Mooreville High School, that you can remember?
When I was in school, the biggest thing I can think, it's not historical by as far as America goes, but locally, for like 5 years, someone had passed away in each grade. And so for the longest time, it just seemed like there was a sadness, I guess you could say, about school, because it kind of started the year before my brother graduated, which would have been in 2008. Like a student or two had passed away from a tragic accident, like drowning. Someone had been killed in a four-wheeler accident. Someone had taken their own life. Someone had, it was just tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. And so by the time we were seniors, nobody in our class had passed away. And I can remember when we got ready to graduate, they had asked me to do the welcoming speech at our graduation. And I almost couldn't get that out, how blessed and fortunate we were that we didn't have an empty seat in our graduating class, because each class before us and each class below us had someone pass. So that's always stood out to me, because I feel like in my time at Mooreville, it's been very similar. These kids have been through a lot and have had to say goodbye to some of their close friends, and there is light after the darkness. And so I can vividly remember all of that and the stress that it had on the educators at the time and our administration, and them just kind of going out of their way to make sure everybody felt supported. And I feel like that same thing has happened in my 3 years here.
I would say, as far as just here locally, other than some of the things she said, there were people who had passed away. I would say historically, it would go back to the internet. Charles and Diana married. We had Ronald Reagan as president. They tried to assassinate him. We tore down the Berlin Wall.
Right.
I mean, the Challenger, the spaceship Challenger blew up. I mean, those are things that occurred during those times when I was here.
I didn't think about stuff like that. Like Ebola was like a thing. The
yeah.
sickness, Ebola, swine flu.
Yeah.
That was scary when they started talking about it.
Yeah, those two
really
things
was.
happened whenever I was in school that were, I guess, national.
And the movie Outbreak was really terrifying if you watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Kristie, we mentioned before we started videoing here that you taught for how many years here at Mooreville?
A little over 29 years.
And how long have you been retired?
I retired in 2016.
Okay, so I know that we have about 18 or so people who work here at Mooreville.
We do. Please don't ask me to
who are
name all of them.
who are also teachers here
They
now.
are.
Including the principal here at this school. So I don't know if there's any stories you could share that wouldn't be too bad, too incriminating.
Well-
or maybe just mention a few of the people here that you taught.
Well, I mean, I did teach the principal, but he almost made me take an oath before I come over here that I couldn't say anything. But I did have to paddle him numerous times for his behavior. The assistant principal, Laura, she actually is the age of my son, Justin. They graduated together.
And how many paddlings did she receive?
I didn't have to.
But she won biggest flirt back then.
Well, yes. If we're going to talk about personality, she did. But she's cute as a button. She still is. But she did not misbehave in my class. I think she might have been a little bit scared of me. But
I'll have to ask her that.
she probably wouldn't admit it now. Of course, I taught Susan Martin,
Right.
Shumpert at that time, Janelle Keith.
Yeah.
Lee Ray.
Yep, Lee Ray, Carmen Perkins.
Were you here with Jeremy Haynes?
I taught Jeremy Haynes. In
Jimmy
fact,
Young?
Jimmy Young. Jeremy voted me he had the highest ACT score, so I was his teacher.
His star teacher.
Yes,
Okay.
I was.
Y'all both carry that title.
Yeah.
do, I know.
So I taught all. Yeah, you named Jimmy and Jeremy.
Jim Talley.
Morgan
Jim
Files.
Jim Talley, Morgan.
Miss Holiday.
I did not teach her.
Okay.
I taught Amanda Fowler.
Really?
I did.
You taught Savannah Webb,
I did teach Savannah Webb. I taught both my children here.
her favorite student of all time.
I didn't have to give Savannah a paddling. I did
You
have
should
to.
have.
Well, I did have to get onto her pretty coarsely for her mouth because she's got a smart mouth. Now her brother, on the other hand, he had some really good friends. I had to paddle them.
Okay.
In fact, the teacher would come get me sometimes to paddle them because they like to cut up. I'm trying to think. I don't want to miss anybody that I taught. I taught people in the elementary as well and the middle school, but it's hard to try to remember everybody unless you call their name.
Right.
I was just in Savannah's room, and there were 6 or 7 students in there, and Savannah asked them if their parent went to school here, and then asked their names, and I had taught all their parents.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Of course, you see that if you work somewhere long enough.
Yeah.
You start teaching the parents and then
I
the
said, I
grandparents.
believe she taught Jesus when he came.
I could have. I am old as dirt.
You are not. Okay, so to kind of wrap it up, so looking back, can you think of any advice that you could give to students today, or talk about any kind of cherished memory or any kind of message that you want to leave?
One thing
The
I would
students.
say is I think that they should have a conversation more. I think too many people send text on those phones, and they can say things they ought not say just because they're hiding behind that. I think you should have a conversation, whatever a problem is, and work out that problem face to face. Those are things we had to do growing up. I mean, if I was upset with you, I had to come to you, and we had to discuss it. So I think that's a problem that this age, and even including Savannah and them's age, because they've had cell phones for so long.
Right.
You know, people forget how to have a conversation with somebody, you know?
Even non-confrontational. Just
Oh,
a
I mean, just a
conversation,
conversation
period.
in general. That all they do is text.
Right.
You know, and so that would be one thing. Of course, they're not accustomed to that, so they don't really understand it. But I would think that.
Ms. Tucker, any advice you would give or any message you want to leave for posterity's sake here today?
I just would say enjoy it. Time goes by really, really fast, and I feel like I had a real fortunate time when I was in school and involved myself with every activity that I could. I didn't let love hold me back with a high school love fling, and so I feel like I really enjoyed each moment. And you get to college and responsibilities get bigger, and then you get married and they get bigger, and you have children and they get bigger. And there's nothing in the world I would take to replace what I have now with my 2 children and my husband. But I look back at the freedom and just all the opportunities you have when you're this young, and you don't get those same opportunities back. So just to seize the moment,
Yeah, I agree with that. I see my kids all the time that I used to teach, and they all say, man, you told us. Because I'd always say, you better enjoy this, because when you graduate and go to school, you're going to be working, and then there's bills, and you don't think about those things when you're young.
It's a long way away when you're young.
Yeah, it is.
And you wish for the next phase without really realizing that you wish for it. And once you get to that point, you kind of realize what you took for granted. And it's not about living in the past or peaking when you're in high school. It's really just about cherishing those memories and those moments. I mean, you can still enjoy the present time and what you have and what you've got coming, but just really enjoying the time that you have. I think about when I graduated, which 2013, so this year that will be 12 years ago. And since I graduated with 105 people. At the time I graduated, I could have named everybody in my high school class, and I might have seen 6 to 8 of those people since I graduated. So you think that you'll see these people and that you'll be involved in their life, but this is just a season of your life, and just take every moment for what it's worth.
I'd like to say that, as she said, it is a season. I always think about it like a book. You have a chapter. This is one chapter in your book, but you're going to have a lot of chapters. So you make sure you keep God first. Make sure you enjoy your friends and your family, and like she
Keep
said,
moving forward.
Yeah, and just move forward. You can't change the past. Just look out the front windshield and move forward, not the rearview mirror.
That's some good advice. All right. Well, thank y'all for joining us today, and you'll be able to view all of these things on our YouTube channel. Thank you.